The text arrived at 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the exact moment because I was sitting in my obstetrician's waiting room, cradling my 7-month pregnant belly, excitement bubbling through me as I waited to see our daughter's ultrasound. James had promised he'd be there. "Nothing could keep me away," he'd said that morning, kissing my forehead before heading to the office. "I'll meet you there at 3, Lies." But 3 adows came and went. Then 3:10. At 3:15 I'd texted him, "Where are you? They're about to call me in. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." His response came 2 minutes later, 6 simple words that would shatter the life we'd built over 8 years. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." I stared at my phone, certain I was misunderstanding. This couldn't be happening, not now, not when we were about to see our baby girls. "Face." I called him immediately, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again, and again. Nothing. "Olivia Pearson?" The nurse stood at the doorway, clipboard in hand, friendly smile in place. She had no idea my world was collapsing. My voice caught. "Can I have a minute? My husband is—" "What? Leaving me? Having a breakdown? Playing some cruel joke?" The nurse nodded sympathetically. "Of course, honey. I'll come back for you." I tried James again. Voicemail. Then I texted, "James, please. What's going on?" "I'm at the doctor's. Our appointment. Please call me." No response. When the nurse called my name again 15 minutes later, I followed her robotically, tears streaming down my face. I lay on the table alone, watching our perfectly healthy daughter wiggle on the screen, her tiny hands opening and closing as if waving to a father who wasn't there. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The technician captured pictures, pointing out features with practiced enthusiasm. "Look at those cheeks, and she's got quite the strong legs. See how she's kicking? Would you like to know the weight estimate?" I nodded numbly, accepting the printouts, going through the motions of a happy, expectant mother while my heart splintered into pieces. Somehow, I drove myself home. Our home, the craftsman bungalow we'd lovingly renovated over the past 3 years. With the nursery, I'd just finished painting a soft sage green. James's car wasn't in the driveway. When I unlocked the front door, the house felt different immediately, emptier. Somehow, as if it already knew. I moved from room to room calling his name, though some part of me already understood he wouldn't answer. In our bedroom, the closet door stood open, gaps on his side where clothes had been hastily removed. His toiletries were gone from the bathroom counter. His laptop wasn't on his desk. He'd planned this. While I was picking out baby clothes and assembling the crib, my husband had been planning his escape. I sank onto our bed, my bed now, apparently, and finally broke down, great heaving sobs that made my daughter kick protestingly inside me. "I'm sorry," I whispered to her, my hands cradling my belly. "I'm so sorry. But it's just us now." I must have fallen asleep from sheer emotional exhaustion. When I woke, it was dark outside, and my phone showed 8 missed calls. None from James. My sister Emma, my parents, my friend Mia. Word was spreading. I couldn't face any of them yet. Instead, I mustered my courage and called James one more time. To my shock, he answered. "Liv." His voice was tight, controlled. The voice he used for difficult client conversations, not for his wife of 6 years. "What's happening?" I whispered. "Where are you?" A pause. "I'm staying at the Metropolitan downtown. I need some time." "Time for what?" "James, I was at our ultrasound appointment, alone. Our daughter—" "I know," he cut me off. "And I'm sorry for how I handled today. I should have told you in person. That was cowardly." "Told me what?" But deep down, I already knew. I can't be a father, Olivia. I thought I could. I really did. But these past months, watching you change, knowing what's coming, I'm not ready. I don't think I'll ever be ready. The words felt like physical blows. You're leaving me because I'm pregnant? With our planned baby? The baby you said you wanted? It's not just that. Another pause, longer this time. There's someone else. The room seemed to tilt around me. Someone else, I repeated. Not a question. It just happened. I didn't plan it. Who? He didn't answer immediately, which told me it was someone I knew. James. Who is she? Cassidy. The name hung in the air between us. Cassidy, his executive assistant. The woman who'd been sending me birthday cards signed from the office family for years, who'd helped select my Christmas gift last year, a sapphire pendant I suddenly couldn't bear to have touching my skin. I reached up and ripped it from my neck, not caring as the chain broke. How long? My voice sounded strange to my own ears, calm when I should be screaming. Does it matter? It matters to me. He sighed. 6 months. Math had always come easily to me. 6 months. I was 7 months pregnant, which meant he'd started sleeping with his assistant when I was in my first trimester. When I was sick every morning, trying to work full-time as an architectural designer while growing our child, while I was attending birthing classes alone because he was working late. You should know, he continued, his tone shifting to something almost professional. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'll provide financial support for the baby, of course, and you can keep the house for now. My lawyer will be in touch about the details. Your lawyer, I echoed. You've already hired a divorce lawyer. It seemed prudent. This doesn't have to be messy, Liv. Didn't it, though? Wasn't the abandonment of a pregnant wife about as messy as it gets? I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell people about Cassidy yet, he added, for professional reasons. A laugh escaped me, high and slightly hysterical. Professional reasons. Of course. Wouldn't want the board to know you're sleeping with your assistant. Might make you look unprofessional. Olivia, did she know I was at the doctor today? Did you tell her you were standing up your pregnant wife at her ultrasound appointment to, what, pack your bags? Or were you with her? Silence, which was answer enough. I have to go, I said. My lawyer will call you tomorrow. And Liv, I am sorry. I hung up without responding. Sorry didn't begin to cover it. The next month passed in a blur of legal discussions, doctor's appointments, and sleepless nights. My sister Emma moved in temporarily to help me prepare for the baby's arrival, now just weeks away. My design firm had been wonderfully supportive, allowing me to work remotely as I struggled with the dual challenges of late pregnancy and sudden divorce. The divorce itself was moving with astonishing speed, thanks to James's apparent desire to sign away our 8 years together as quickly and quietly as possible. He'd been more than generous with the settlement. I kept the house outright, received significant alimony, and child support was set at the maximum amount without me having to fight for it. His lawyer had assured my lawyer this wasn't about money. Of course it wasn't. It was about his freedom to start fresh with a woman 15 years his junior, unencumbered by the responsibilities of fatherhood. I hadn't seen him in person since the day he left, all communication happening through our lawyers. It was surreal to be negotiating the end of my marriage without ever looking my husband in the eye. In some ways, it was a blessing. I didn't have to see his face, didn't have to watch him pretend remorse, but it also made it hard to believe this was really happening, until the day I received a package of papers to sign, officially ending our marriage in exchange for the settlement we'd negotiated. The day I would sign away James Pearson and officially become a single mother. Emma found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of documents, my pen hovering above the signature line. You okay? She asked, sliding into the chair beside me. Not really, I admitted. I'm about to sign divorce papers from a man I haven't seen in a month. a man who hasn't once asked how his daughter is doing. Emma's expression hardened. She'd never been James's biggest fan, even before his spectacular betrayal. Then he doesn't deserve either of you. I know. But I gestured helplessly at my enormous belly. This isn't how it was supposed to be, Em. She was supposed to have two parents who loved each other, a father who wanted her. She has a mother who will move mountains for her, and she has me and Mom and Dad and your friends. That's a lot of love. I nodded, wiping away tears. I'm scared. Of birth? Because that's totally normal. No. Well, yes, but that's not what I mean. I placed my hand on my belly, feeling my daughter's reassuring movements. I'm scared of doing this alone, of failing her. Emma took my hand, squeezing it firmly. Listen to me. You are the strongest person I know. You're going to be an amazing mother. And James Pearson is an absolute idiot for not realizing what he's throwing away. I managed a wobbly smile and signed the papers, officially ending my marriage with a few strokes of a pen. It felt both monumental and strangely anticlimactic. Later that night, as I tried to find a comfortable sleeping position, my phone lit up with a text. From James. I heard you signed the papers today. I wanted to say thank you for making this easy. I know I don't deserve your cooperation. I stared at the screen, anger rising. Making this easy? As if I'd had any choice in the matter. Another text came through, before I could decide whether to respond. For what it's worth, I do think about the baby. I hope someday she'll understand this was for the best. This pushed me over the edge. I typed back furiously, her name is Lily. Not the baby. And no, she won't understand why her father abandoned her before she was even born to shack up with his assistant. But thankfully, she'll have enough people who actually love her that your absence will just be a footnote in her life. I hit send, then immediately blocked his number. No more. I was done with James Pearson. 3 weeks later, after 36 hours of labor, I gave birth to Lily Emma Pearson, 7 pounds, 4 ounces of absolute perfection. As I held her in my arms, her tiny hand wrapped around my finger, I made her a promise. It's you and me against the world, little one, and we're going to be just fine. Adjusting to life as a single mother wasn't easy, but I found strength I never knew I possessed. Lily was a relatively easy baby, sleeping well and growing steadily. My parents helped whenever they could, and Emma continued to stay with me during the first few months. My design firm allowed me to work from home 3 days a week, which made childcare more manageable. James, true to form, remained absent. He paid his child support on time, sent an impersonal bouquet when Lily was born, and otherwise seemed content to pretend she didn't exist. It was both painful and a relief. I didn't have to share her, but I hated that she would grow up without a father. I was just beginning to find my rhythm as a working single mother when I received the call that would change everything again. Olivia Pearson? The voice on the phone was formal, unfamiliar. Yes, this is she. This is Martin Hoffman, attorney for the estate of Arthur Winters. I'm calling regarding your grandfather's will. My grandfather. I hadn't seen him in years, not since my mother's contentious falling out with her father when I was in college. The Winters family was old money, Boston aristocracy, and extremely complicated. My mother had walked away from all of it, including her substantial inheritance, for reasons she'd never fully explained. I'm sorry. There must be some mistake, I said. My grandfather and I aren't in contact. Nevertheless, Ms. Pearson, you are named as a beneficiary in his will. Mr. Winters passed away last week. The reading of the will is scheduled for this Friday in Boston. Your presence is requested. I glanced at Lily, happily batting at toys in her bouncer, then at my calendar, full of work deadlines and pediatrician appointments. I'm sorry, but I can't just fly to Boston. I have a 4-month-old baby and work commitments. I understand. The inconvenience, Mr. Hoffman said, his tone suggesting he didn't understand at all. However, the terms of your inheritance require your presence at the reading. Mr. Winters was specific about certain conditions. What conditions? What inheritance? I haven't spoken to my grandfather in over a decade. I'm not at liberty to discuss the details over the phone, Ms. Pearson, but I can tell you that it's substantial. Life-changing, one might say. I sat down, suddenly needing the support. Life-changing how? Again, I can't discuss specifics, but I would strongly advise making arrangements to attend. The reading is at 2 p.m. Friday at the offices of Hoffman, Blake & Associates in downtown Boston. Accommodations can be arranged for you and your child if necessary. My mind raced. Life-changing inheritance? From a grandfather who'd effectively disowned my mother? It seemed suspicious, almost like a cruel joke. I'll need to make arrangements, I said finally. Can I call you back tomorrow? Of course. He provided his contact information, then added, And Ms. Pearson, I knew your grandfather well. He wasn't a perfect man, not by any means, but he did regret how things ended with your mother. This inheritance, it's his way of trying to make amends. After hanging up, I immediately called my mother. Her reaction was exactly what I expected, dismissive, bordering on hostile. It's a waste of time, Olivia. Whatever game he's playing from beyond the grave, don't get involved. You're better off without Winter's money and all the strings that come with it. But Mom, the lawyer said it was substantial. Life-changing were his exact words. With Lily to consider now, I can't just ignore that. My mother sighed heavily. Arthur Winters never gave anything without expecting something in return. Just be careful. And if you do go, don't sign anything without having your own lawyer review it first. Despite my mother's warnings, I found myself booking flights to Boston 2 days later, Lily in tow. Whatever my grandfather's motivations, I needed to at least hear what he had left me. Single motherhood was expensive, and while I was managing, an inheritance could provide security for Lily's future. What I never expected was that news of my mysterious inheritance would reach James before I'd even left for Boston. The day before my flight, as I was packing Lily's seemingly endless supplies, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found myself face to face with my ex-husband for the first time in 5 months. James looked essentially the same. Handsome in that polished, executive way, his dark hair perfectly styled, wearing an expensive suit that emphasized his athletic build. But there was something different in his eyes, a calculation I'd never noticed when we were married. James, I didn't invite him in. Why are you here? His eyes moved past me, scanning the entryway of what had once been our shared home. I heard about your grandfather. I wanted to offer my condolences. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't even know my grandfather. We never met him, remember? Because he and my mother weren't speaking? He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Still, losing family is hard. I wanted to check on you and see Lily. Now you want to see Lily? After 5 months of nothing? I've been giving you space. Liv, I thought that's what you wanted. The casual use of my nickname grated. What I wanted was a husband who didn't abandon me when I was 7 months pregnant. What I wanted was a father for my daughter. But here we are. James sighed, running. A hand through his hair and a gesture so familiar it made my heart twist despite everything. I know I hurt you. I handled everything terribly. But people make mistakes, Liv. They can change their minds. What are you saying, exactly? He stepped closer, his expression earnest. I'm saying I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us, about Lily. I'm wondering if we gave up too easily. If we should consider reconciliation, for Lily's sake. I stared at him, momentarily speechless. Reconciliation? After he'd left me for another woman while I was pregnant? After he'd expedited our divorce and disappeared from our lives? And then it clicked. The timing. the sudden interest in his daughter, the talk of reconciliation. "This isn't about Lily," I said slowly. "This is about my grandfather's inheritance." A flicker of something, guilt, surprise, I couldn't tell, crossed his face before his expression smoothed back to neutral. "That's not fair. I didn't even know about any inheritance. Until yesterday." "But you do know about it. How interesting." I shifted Lily higher on my hip. "Who told you?" "It can't have been my mother." He hesitated, then admitted, "Marcus Holden mentioned something. Said he'd heard from a contact in Boston that Arthur Winters had left his estranged granddaughter a significant portion of his estate. Marcus Holden, the CEO of James's firm. Old money himself with connections in all the right circles." "Of course. And suddenly you're interested in reconciliation. What a coincidence." "It's not like that, Olivia. Isn't it? Because you've shown zero interest in your daughter for 5 months, James. You didn't come to the hospital when she was born. You've never asked to see her, never called to check how she's doing. But the moment you hear I might be coming into money, you're on my doorstep talking about getting back together." He reached out as if to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "I know how it looks," he said. "But I've genuinely been rethinking everything. Seeing Cassidy, it was a mistake. A stupid, selfish mistake." I noticed he didn't actually deny that the day inheritance had influenced his sudden reappearance. "Where is Cassidy now?" I asked. A shadow crossed his face. "We're no longer together. Let me guess. She left you for someone else?" His silence was answer enough. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? I didn't bother hiding my satisfaction. "Now, if you'll excuse us, Lily and I have packing to do." I started to close the door, but James put his hand out to stop it. "Liv, wait. I'm serious about wanting to be in Lily's life. Whatever happens with us, she deserves to know her father, okay?" A moment, looking at him standing there, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with him. His charm, his confidence, the way he could make me feel like the center of his universe when he focused his attention on me. It would be so easy to believe him, to think he'd genuinely had a change of heart. But then I remembered sitting alone in that doctor's office, watching our daughter on the ultrasound screen without him. I remembered signing divorce papers while heavily pregnant. I remembered giving birth with only my sister beside me, no husband to share the miracle of our daughter's arrival. "If you want to be in Lily's life, you can file for visitation through your lawyer," I said coolly. "But let's get one thing straight. There is no us anymore. You made sure of that. And if you think my potential inheritance changes anything between us, you don't know me at all." With that, I closed the door firmly in his face. Leaning back against it, I held Lily close, breathing in her sweet baby scent to calm myself. "It's still just you and me, little one," I whispered, "and we're stronger than he knows." As I returned to packing for our trip to Boston, I couldn't shake the unsettled feeling James's visit had left me with. Something told me this wouldn't be the last I'd hear from my ex-husband. And whatever my grandfather had left me, it was already complicating my life in ways I hadn't anticipated. Little did I know just how complicated things were about to become, not just with James, but with the entire Winters family and the unexpected legacy my grandfather had left behind. Boston in autumn was exactly as I remembered it. Crisp air tinged with the scent of fallen leaves, historic buildings standing proudly alongside modern skyscrapers, an undercurrent of old money and older traditions flowing through the streets. As the taxi carried Lily and me from the airport to the hotel Mr. Hoffman had arranged, I felt an unexpected twinge of nostalgia. My summers here as a child, before the mysterious falling out between my mother and grandfather, had been filled with trips to museums, sailing on the harbor, and elegant dinners where I'd been expected to display perfect manners. The hotel was precisely what I'd expect from my grandfather, the kind of old-world luxury that whispered rather than shouted its exclusivity. The bellhop who carried our bags spoke in hushed, reverential tones. The front desk clerk addressed me as Ms. Winters Pearson, though I'd never used my mother's maiden name. "The Winters suite has been prepared for you," she informed me, sliding a heavy brass key across the marble counter. Not a key card, an actual key. "Mr. Hoffman asked me to inform you that a car will collect you tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. for the reading." The suite was larger than my entire first apartment, with sweeping views of the Boston Common. A crib, antique, hand-carved, probably worth more than my car, had been set up in the bedroom, alongside a rocking chair that looked eerily similar to one I remembered from my grandfather's home. "Well, Lily," I said, settling my drowsy daughter into the crib. Grandpa Arthur certainly knew how to make an impression. A knock at the door revealed a hotel employee with a large basket. "Delivery for Ms. Pearson." The basket contained an assortment of baby items, organic foods, handcrafted toys, the softest blanket I'd ever touched, and an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note on heavy cream stationery. "Ms. Pearson, I look forward to our meeting tomorrow. Your grandfather spoke of you often in his final years. The items are for your daughter. Arthur selected them himself before his passing. Respectfully, Martin Hoffman." I sank into a chair, the note trembling in my hands. My grandfather had chosen baby gifts for Lily? The same grandfather who'd had no contact with me for over a decade. The same man my mother had warned me about repeatedly? Something wasn't adding up. I called my mother, who answered on the first ring as if she'd been waiting. "You've arrived safely, then?" No greeting, just her usual directness. "Yes, we're at the hotel. Mom, did you tell Grandpa Arthur about Lily?" A pause. "No, we haven't spoken in years. You know that." "Then how did he know I have a daughter? How did he know enough to select baby gifts for her before he died?" Another, longer pause. "Arthur always had ways of keeping tabs on people, especially family. Don't read too much into it, Olivia. It's just another manipulation." But I wasn't so sure. "The lawyer said Grandpa regretted how things ended with you." My mother's laugh was short and bitter. "I'm sure he said that. Arthur was always concerned with his legacy, how history would remember him. But trust me, he never regretted anything except not getting his way." "Will you at least tell me what really happened between you two? All these years, you've never explained why you cut him off completely." "It doesn't matter now, Olivia. Just be careful tomorrow. Remember what I said about not signing anything without your own lawyer reviewing it first?" After we hung up, I spent a restless night, my mind churning with questions. Who was Arthur Winters, really? The cold, controlling patriarch my mother had painted, or someone more complex? And what exactly had he left me that his lawyer described as life-changing? Morning arrived with more clarity, if not answers. Whatever my grandfather's intentions, whatever history existed between him and my mother, I needed to approach this inheritance with clear eyes. I contacted a Boston attorney Emma had recommended, Diane Chen, a sharp-minded estate specialist, and arranged for her to accompany me to the reading. At precisely 1:30, a sleek black car arrived at the hotel. The driver helped me secure Lily's car seat with practiced efficiency, and 30 minutes later, we pulled up to an imposing stone building in the financial district. The offices of Hoffman, Blake, and Associates occupied the top 3 floors, with views of the harbor that would make real estate developers weep. Diane Chen met me in the lobby, a compact woman with razor-sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, who somehow made her simple gray suit look more authoritative than the power suits around her. "Ms. Pearson," she greeted me, her gaze taking in everything from Lily sleeping in her carrier to the slight tremble in my hands. "Are you ready for this?" "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, grateful for her steadying presence. The conference room was already half full when we arrived. I recognized my Uncle Philip, my mother's older brother, looking older and grayer than I remembered, but still radiating the same entitled energy. Beside him sat his wife Marianne and their son Preston, my cousin who'd always treated family gatherings like networking events for his future political career. Their expressions when they saw me ranged from surprise, Marianne, to calculation, Preston, to barely concealed hostility, Philip. Olivia, Philip acknowledged stiffly. We weren't expecting you. Uncle Philip, I nodded. It's been a long time. And you've brought a baby. The distaste in his voice was evident. My daughter Lily, I confirmed, resisting the urge to shield her from his gaze. Philip's eyes narrowed. I wasn't aware you were married. I'm not anymore. This tidbit of information seemed to please him for some reason. Before he could respond, Martin Hoffman entered, effectively ending our uncomfortable reunion. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice carrying the weight of decades in law. We're gathered today to discuss the final wishes of Arthur Winters, as outlined in his last will and testament. He proceeded with the formalities, reading through standard legal language before getting to the meat of the will. Minor bequests were distributed, family heirlooms to distant cousins, generous donations to Arthur's preferred charities, substantial gifts to longtime staff members. Throughout this process, I noticed Philip becoming increasingly agitated, checking his watch, exchanging glances with Preston. Something wasn't going according to their expectations. Finally, Hoffman cleared his throat and looked directly at me. Now, to the primary distribution of assets. To my granddaughter, Olivia Grace Winters Pearson, I leave the following: my primary residence at 17 Beacon Hill Drive, including all contents and artifacts therein. My controlling interest in Winters Holdings, comprising 51% of voting shares, and the sum of $50 million to be held in trust for her and her descendants. The Rhines. Room went completely silent. Then Philip exploded. This is outrageous. She hasn't been part of this family in years. She doesn't even use the Winters name. Hoffman continued as if Philip hadn't spoken. The remaining shares of Winters Holdings will be distributed as follows: 24% to Philip Winters, 15% to the Winters Foundation, and 10% to be divided among current executive staff. Philip's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. You can't be serious. Arthur promised me controlling interest. We had an agreement. I assure you, Mr. Winters, everything is in order. Your father's wishes were quite clear. She doesn't know the first thing about running Winters Holdings. Philip jabbed a finger